After the resurgence of Minecraft in 2019, it seemed to me like the most popular way to play this game is what has been dubbed the 2-week Minecraft phase. Basically, you and a few friends start a server, power through the early game in a couple of days, and burn yourselves out within the fortnight. Admittedly, I myself am also guilty of this. Between my original Let's Play, my most recent world, and my several Bedrock realms in between, I don't think I've ever stuck with the same world for more than a month at a time. That's what sounded really intriguing to me about this recent explosion of people starting their forever worlds. I've always wanted to have a long-term world like this, but between the style of content that's been popular and the way that I'm used to playing the game, it was hard for me to find the motivation to try a forever world for myself. But hey, if there's ever been a time to do it, it's now, so let's go! Alright, I am loading up the world. And I am here. Oh my goodness! Spider Jockey! Okay, I'm gonna run down the mountain and get to work on my usual stuff. I'm gonna get some stone tools. And while I'm working on that, I'm going to be explaining to the audience what I'm doing. So, I love you, and I will see you in a bit. Since this world is going to be a pretty long-term project, I plan on taking it really slow for the first few episodes. Now, if you've seen Nuts videos, you'll already be familiar with the Through the Ages approach to progression. And while I won't be copying him exactly, I really do like this idea. So for this series, I'll be limiting myself in a handful of ways and setting goals that I have to meet before I can advance. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about the goals for each age as we reach them, but for now, let's focus on our first set of tasks for this video. Welcome to the Stone Age. For this age, I have 5 tasks to do before we can advance. Our main goal for this episode is just to get ourselves set up for the future, so in no particular order, here are the steps we'll be taking to achieve that. Each of these tasks will also have little subsets of micro tasks, but we'll get to those when we get to them. For now, let's just get back to the game, shall we? Okay, and I've got stone tools. I'm going to continue getting some stone, just so I have a little bit to build with. Right off the rip, I think my first goal is going to be finding somewhere to make a hobbit hole, and then probably gathering the materials to do so. I spent a little bit of time wandering around the forest and neighboring mountains, gathering more items as I went. It wasn't much longer before I found this little cave in the side of the cliff where we spawned. Thankfully, there was some coal not far away, as well as some pumpkins. That's one item we can tick off early for one of our goals. Making a farm is pretty easy to do, so I want to get a variety of edible materials instead of just wheat. The easiest way to do this would be to find a village to pillage, but as part of this goal, I want to acquire all of my items through legitimate means. No thievery for me. In addition to wheat, I also want at least one other crop, either beets from wandering traders, or carrots or potatoes from killing zombies. And speaking of monsters, I ended up spending a little too long outside gathering materials, and not long enough setting up a base of operations for the first night. I hastily threw together a wall to keep monsters out, and without a bed to skip the night, I huddled up inside my little cave for the time being. This is the first time on like a first day that I haven't had a bed to sleep in. Oh goodness. Woo! Just me sitting in the ah! You know what? I'll keep that in. Why not? That's not. Oh, blast. The realization that I didn't have any food to heal with hit harder than that skeleton did, so as soon as dawn broke, I headed out to get some. Then I went back out into the plains to find some sheep. And there we go. My next goal was to get a little farm started, but I was a bit limited on how I could do that. Since I'm only in the Stone Age, I don't have the iron to make a bucket, so I'd have to use natural water to irrigate my crops. That only left me with this little area down by the river, so I cleared out all the flowers and started gathering seeds. While I waited for the wheat to grow, I started prepping pens for the livestock next. Out of all of them, that'd be the easiest goal to complete for the most part, so I cleared out the area in front of my base and started terraforming a nice little area for them. It was around this time that Sunny also started going off on their own to find a village. While I'm spending my time tending to animals and growing wheat, their only goal in the beginning is to get a trading hall going as soon as possible. The limits of my self-imposed challenge are going to be keeping us apart for a while, but I can assure you they are still out there somewhere. With the terraforming completed, I took what little wheat I had grown from my farm, and I headed out to get some animals. Now, I don't plan on penning up any pigs or chickens, at least for the time being, since I already have another source of food. The cows and sheep are for leather and wool respectively, but I don't need feathers yet, and pigs don't have any drops other than pork. So, with 2 sheep and 2 cows penned up, the next goal I was aiming to tackle was completing my starter base. In order to do that, I wanted to get another wood type just to vary the colors a bit, so I decided to head out on a little adventure.
Oh, hi.
I just got 2 baby chickens in a row. Hi, honey.
Hi.
Also, mushrooms. I will take mushrooms. Let's go!
Let's grab me a couple saplings.
I would never grab anything for you. I also need to... Whoa! My goodness. Hello? Oh, there's probably a waterfall that pushed up a bunch of leaves or something again, right?
Press tab and we'll see.
Tab. Yep, that's what it was. And it looks like all of them are underground, so I will... Oh, not all of them. Okay. Good lord. Oh. Pay attention to where you're going. Is that 2 geodes side by side? Hey, there's some spruce. Okay. Why is it always mountains? That's probably easier to get to. Boosh. I love booshes. Alright, spruce acquired. Alright, hi puppy. Okay, well, I'd say that was a pretty daggum successful adventure. I'm gonna go ahead and pop down a couple of these new spruce saplings that we just got, and 1 of the dark oak trees, because I only got enough for 2. And we'll get this looking pretty. I see someone. I see someone off in the distance. Oh, well, they dipped, but there they are. They're off in the distance. Okay, and so here is the main build. Got the main hobbit hole entrance, and then I did a little window over here. And I really hated the way it looked. I still kind of hate the way it looks, but I did like the trap doors to make it look like it's like holding back the mountain from like crumbling. I did the same thing, you know, up here as well. So it looks like it's holding it back from crumbling. That's what I'm gonna go with. And then on the inside, it's very empty. I have not decorated anything yet. So here's like a little foyer type room. We can go this way to access my storage room. It is currently organized. I don't have anything labeled, but everything is organized. Next up in here, we have the kitchen. And this is like where, where the window is at. I've got my smokers set up, and then I have food and fuel in these two barrels respectively. And then finally, this staircase leads up to my bedroom. And I stuck almost entirely with the natural shape of the cave. Like, this is, this was where it went up. This was, it curved in here. I dug out this room and, like a little bit of... basically, I only dug out the storage room and then a little bit of space for my bed. It's gonna be a while. But that's my starter base. And it is complete.
It looks so good.
Thanks! I can now check that off of the list. So, there is one goal officially complete. And right after that, I also finally crafted up the rest of the leather armor that I was missing. So, there's another goal ticked off. We've only got a little bit more to do before I can call this age complete. In addition to the main goals I've highlighted in this video, I've also been passively working on getting a few emeralds in my pockets. Anytime I've seen a wandering trader, I've made sure to trade with them as much as possible, since you can sell things to them now. A bit earlier on, I sold a few hay bales, and on a little hunting trip, I also managed to sell some water bottles that I had fished up. I just wanted to have emeralds on hand in case a trader popped up selling beetroot seeds, since that's one of the crops I can get to finish my farming task. I've also been keeping on top of harvesting and replanting wheat, since I'm planning to use that to trade with villagers a bit later on. In between harvest, another thing I've done is continue terraforming and building paths around my base. I also decided to build a bridge over the river to connect my area to Sunny's. Then, as I was in the middle of organizing my materials... Oop. Another world, another chance to witness Sunny being the first death. Turns out they died in a cave trying to get iron for minecart tracks, so I figured I'd go lend them a hand. While I couldn't mine and craft with iron yet, I could still offer the protection of leather armor and a stone sword. We spent a little while in the caves, me fighting while they gathered iron. There was a couple of close calls while we were down there. But with a hefty supply of iron and diamonds, Sunny decided that we would call it a victory and head home. Almost. Listen, I said I'd protect them, not that I'd do a good job at it. Anyways, they got what they came for, so I took that as my sign to head home. Also, in that caving trip, my helmet got dangerously low on durability, so I decided to take it off and put it on an armor stand. I always make a habit of keeping my first set of gear, and having it be the dyed custom leather armor this time is a nice bonus, so I'll make sure to remove all of my gear before it breaks. Once Sunny and I split up again, they began working on their villager setup. For the foreseeable future, by which I mean even now as I am recording the script, this is the only thing they will be working on. So if you're curious why they don't show up much in the video beyond this point, that's why. Because this right here, ain't fun. Oh, what was I doing at this point? Look, we're at a slow point in progression, okay? All jokes aside, I was actually doing this to prepare for the next goal that I wanted to achieve. While goal number 3 had just been getting some livestock, there's a few other animals I'm counting as a part of this step. Gathering fish, bones, and building this little stable were all parts of preparations. Oh, and fishing was my main source of getting this. That's the saddle for editing me. Once I was satisfied with the amount of fish I had, I took a trip to the plains to claim my first animal companion. And his name shall be Troy. Then I took Troy out on a little adventure to a biome Sunny had found a bit earlier and graciously marked for me. See, there are a total of 9 different breeds of wolf in the game now, and there was one specifically that I wanted. In the faraway old-growth pine taiga is the black wolf, and I was lucky enough to find one sweet boy all by himself. I hurried over to him and offered him a bone, which he accepted immediately. Everyone say hello to our second companion, Wishbone, named after my dog in real life. With Wishbone now in tow, we returned to the plains close to home, and I made one more trip to the nearby village. I took this opportunity to trade some of the wheat and pumpkins I'd been growing with the local farmers. While I didn't plan to make use of Sunny's trade hall yet, there was no reason I couldn't trade with these villagers. Then, as I was prepping to leave, I heard the sound of distant meowing. At its source, I found a poor cat trapped on the edge of a cliff, so I hurried around to save it. It was a bit skittish at first, but a handful of cod won her over. I led her back to where Troy and Wishbone were waiting, taking a moment to mull over what name I should give her. Of course, I always end up settling on the same name for my cats regardless of what game they're from. It's always going to be Mochi. There's no significance to the name or anything, I just think it's cute. So I took Troy, Wishbone, and Mochi back home and got them settled into their new places. Now with my starter house completed, hundreds of crops farmed, plenty of animals tamed and bred, and my custom armor crafted and dyed, I was almost done with every single goal that I set for the Stone Age. There was still one goal I hadn't met yet though, and I wanted to use this as an opportunity to expand on a couple of the other goals as well, since there was definitely more I could have done. In order to get a variety of trees, I need to go on a little adventure around the world to gather saplings. Currently, not counting oak and birch since they're everywhere around spawn, I have 2 wood types, spruce and dark oak. I'd need at least 3 more to meet that goal. I opted to leave Troy at home this time since I'd likely be crossing larger bodies of water than just tiny rivers. With nothing but stone tools, shoddy leather armor, and a handful of cod, I set out on my journey. Thankfully, it was only a few hundred blocks before I set my eyes on a cherry grove, netting me wood type number 3. This also happens to be my favorite wood in the game, so bonus points for that, I guess. Then, just on the other side of the mountain, I found 2 more tree types. First, acacia, which took a strangely large number of trees to get a sapling, and then jungle, barely 100 blocks away. Now, I could have stopped there and called that good enough. I had all 5 wood types I needed, as well as melons to count for all the crops I needed. But I have plans for just one more build in this episode, and it just didn't feel right to count melons and pumpkins towards the crop goal. So, at the risk of dying kilometers away from home, I pushed on. As I neared the edge of the jungle, I spotted some gray within the trees. I knew there wasn't much of value, at least to me, within a jungle temple, but, well, I've never solved the puzzle before. And now I can finally say that I have. Now to grab the... Wow. Okay, yep, that's about what I expected. Moving on. After leaving the temple, I decided to take the next leg of my journey on the water, so I crafted up a boat and rowed out into the sea. My plan was to try and source some potatoes or carrots from shipwrecks. No one could lay claim to sunken ships after all, so technically this wouldn't be stealing. My first shipwreck, unfortunately, didn't yield any crops at all, but I did take the treasure map. Of course, I couldn't claim the treasure yet, but I could still leave a beacon there for whenever I was able to take it. A bit farther out, I located another shipwreck, which happened to be right next to an ocean monument. Could you imagine if I tried to take that on right now? Yeah, no. I dove down to the shipwreck, completely ignoring the monument for the time being, and yeah, I still didn't get anything to plant. But there was another shipwreck right next to this one, so... Yes! We got the potatoes. I also took the opportunity to grab these 2 armor trims. Technically speaking, they do require diamonds to duplicate, but duplication and crafting are not the same thing, and you can't craft armor trims, so I'm counting this one as something I can take. It's not like I'll be using them on leather armor anyways. Now, I was definitely tempted to call that good enough and head home at this point, but, well, there were only 2 other types of wood in the game, not counting the nether woods, and surely it couldn't take that long to find them, right? Yeah, that took absolutely ages, so I took my propagule and decided to call it quits. I actually took so long that I managed to find another jungle temple on the way. And yes, I did the puzzle, and I also found some armor trims here. Funnily enough, by some miracle, on the way home I stumbled across a pale garden. It was the final wood type I needed, so that means I have every single type of wood now. And yeah, that was my final stop on the way home, thank goodness. I got all of my new trees planted immediately, as well as finally getting the potatoes in the ground. Then I spent a few minutes clearing out a little space on the opposite side of the cows to farm a couple stacks of mangrove wood. And man, even with the timber data pack, these trees are still a pain to farm. I hate that I love this red so much. Oh, and also Sunny came over to show off the progress they'd made on their villager setup. Ain't that a funny image? Now for the final thing I wanted to do in this episode. It had always been my plan for the little pens to be a temporary place for the animals. I actually did the same thing in my original Let's Play, so I'm sure you know what's coming next. I want to build the animals a nice home too, of course, and the best way to do that, I think, is in the form of a time-lapse. So, I'll see you all on the other side. With the barn all put together, the only thing left was to get all of the animals moved over. And with that, I have completed every single goal that I set for myself in the Stone Age. So the only thing left to do is lay my head to rest and reap my rewards.